You've probably heard of the genome. We've moved from the excitement of the Human Genome Project to the familiarity of things like 23andMe. But don't let this familiarity deceive you. The innovation and exciting scientific work with the genome carry on and has expanded to even bigger ideas. Today, we're going to be talking about a concept that builds on our understanding of personal health beyond the sequence of our DNA. Welcome to today's Quick Facts episode on the Exposome.
Gary Miller 2020 describes the exposome as the, quote, environmental equivalent of the genome as it is an all-encompassing view of the exposures we encounter throughout our lives. So, in other words, the genome is our genetic makeup and the exposome is our collective experiences or exposures to the environment throughout our lives. So what we eat, smell, touch, interact with, stress out about, learn, etc. These exposures are measurable factors, and the way our bodies respond when exposed to different personal and environmental factors is also measurable. For example, I can measure the number and type of calories that I eat and then measure my body's response by looking at my weight. I can also measure my income level or my community's general socioeconomic status and then measure various aspects of my biological health as a member of this community. And then if I were able to change my income level, I would be able to see whether or not that affected my personal health variables.
So with that preface, I'll give you a more official definition by Miller and Jones, who define the exosome as the cumulative measure of environmental influences and associated biological responses throughout our lifespan, which can include exposures to the environment, diet, behavior, and endogenous processes. Endogenous means something that is caused or produced internally inside our bodies.
Now, we gave some familiar everyday examples, but exposure throughout life doesn't just change things like weight and nutrient balance. In fact, exposure to things like bacteria, pesticides, or heavy metals, and lifestyle factors like if you exercise, whether or not you smoke, and how stressed you are, these can actually change DNA factors, not in the way DNA is sequenced, but in the way that your body recognizes or utilizes DNA. This is called an epigenetic change.
Epigenetic changes are tied to numerous physical and psychological conditions, such as cancer and the aging process. So yes, understanding our genetic makeup is a huge step forward in the health sciences. However, the CDC does point out that only about 10% of the conditions are tied to genetics, while the other 90% we tend to look externally to external factors and the environment and how these can influence changes in our body. So, like the genome-wide association study is used to investigate a person's genetics relative to a disease, the exposure-wide association study would then be used to look at how various exposures throughout our lifespan impact biomarkers or measures of health and wellness in each of us.
So I'll drive home the point once more. The exposome encompasses essentially everything that we encounter throughout our lives, and it considers how these things influence our health and well-being. That said, realize that much of our health can be modified, changed for the better, if we understand how the world around us impacts our wellness. So I encourage you to think about the things that you can change. Maybe that's your diet or your activity level, the way you're engaging with others around you. These sorts of things can tangibly impact health.
Now, why am I telling you this? Because it's interesting. But more than that, I hope you now feel inspired to look more deeply and consider the areas in which you feel empowered to take charge for your own well-being.
Our genes are what they are to some extent, but that's not all that matters with health. Look at the environment around you, what you eat, do, who you spend time with. These are all important factors to living a healthy life and aging well. We are excited to share some information on the exposome with you today, but remember, this is not intended to be medical advice or recommendation because I'm not that kind of doctor. Thank you for watching today's Quick Facts episode. Please like, follow, and subscribe.